Okay? Yet Gauranga's Parakiya affairs are more confidential than Krishna's. For externally he is acting as a world teacher. That Mahaprabhu, let me read on. Thus Vrindavan Das Thakur has cleverly written these lines to protect Mahaprabhu from the uninformed who would mock him as a pseudo-sannyasi. And for the bhaktas in general, many might misrepresent the Lord and take to imitating him by mixing with women and assuming the renounced order. Only chaos would arise from this, and Mahaprabhu would be blamed for propagating a pseudo-religious sect. So Vrindavan Das Thakur's warning is very appropriate, because it's meant to protect Mahaprabhu from the majority of the bhaktas and from the people in general, because Mahaprabhu did take sannyas, and a sannyasi, an ideal sannyasi, should never mix with women. And if this is known, then everyone will mock him as a pseudo-sannyasi, and no one will take him seriously, and his religion will not flourish. So this protective warning of Vrindavan Das Thakur is very appropriate. Yet the most important reason which prompts Vrindavan Das's warning is that the Lord personally wishes to keep his personal love affairs a secret. Now this is the strongest point. Mahaprabhu himself doesn't want these pastimes spread around. Because very few devotees actually have adhikar to take up such a high form of bhajan. Gauranga Nagar bhajan is the culmination of Gopi Bhav in Vrindavan. So how many people do we find who are eligible to perform Gopi Bhav? And this comes after that. Because first, if one is not completely versed in the teachings of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and one is not performing Raganuga Bhakti, following in their footsteps in Gopi Bhav, it won't be possible for them to understand about Mahaprabhu's affairs in that same way. First, one must get a footing in the Goswamis' bhajan padati, and understanding these mellows in Vrindavan. And then when one is very advanced in this form of bhajan, only then is it possible to take up this form of bhajan in Navadvip. Thus, all of the Nagari Bhav pads, all of this padavali, which was written by the Rosik Gaudiya Mahajans, are simply meant for other Rosik Bhaktas. Indeed, Caitanya Mahaprabhu always cringed whenever he heard someone discussing his own intimate affairs or glories. Thus, Vrindavan Das Thakur's instruction to never openly preach about Gauranga's Nagar activities is very appropriate. We should not, however, mistakenly conclude that Vrindavan Das is denying Gauranga's Nagar feature. This is the big mistake that everyone makes. They use this example and they say, just see, now Gauranga is not a Nagar and we should never think of him this way. But that's not what Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying here. This is the important point that we have to grasp. Because for Vrindavan Das, we should not, however, mistakenly conclude that Vrindavan Das is denying Gauranga's Nagar feature. For included within these passages, he says, Jadyapi Shakal Stav Sambhave Tahane. In other words, all such praises are possible with him. It is true. But one should not say it. It's just like if this is, they're trying to protect Mahaprabhu's character, you know. Let's not scandalize our Prabhu. You know, if someone is a romantic and everyone says, makes jokes and points to him, oh look, this guy's flirting with all the women, you know, then it becomes a scandal. So this warning is to prevent this. We don't want to hear Mahaprabhu's name scandalized. But it is true that yes, he is a Nagar, because Krishna and the gopis, their love pastimes are eternally going on, and Gauranga is Krishna, and he cannot give up his previous nature. He's Radha and Krishna combined. So he's enjoying Radha's bhav, and he's also Krishna, and so Krishna's nature is also within him. So to act like Krishna is not out of place for Gauranga. And indeed he does act like Krishna. This means that yes, indeed Gauranga is a Nagar, but one should not advertise the fact to anyone and everyone. In Caitanya Bhagavat's Madhya Khanda, chapter 23, Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur goes on describing Gauranga's Nagar qualities like the other Gaudiya Mahajans. So at another place in Caitanya Bhagavat, he is describing Mahaprabhu like a Nagar in another context. And here are those verses from chapter 23 of the Madhya Lila. Modan Sundar Gora Kolivar Dibyabas Poridan Chachur Chikur Mala Monohar Jeno Deki Panchabane Chandan Chorchito Shri Anga Shobito Gole Dole Bonamala Duliye Poraye Premi Tire Nahe Anande Sachir Bala Kam Sor Asana Brikajuga Patana Bale Malaya Bindu Mukta Dashana Sri Jutta Bodhana Prakriti Korona Sindhu. He's a Nagar here. Let's read the translation. Gauranga's body is very beautiful to behold. He is dressed in divine attire and curling hair, tied with enchanting flower malas, making him look just like Cupid, wielding 5 flower arrows. While walking along in bliss, Satinandan totters, so prem makes him dizzy. His 2 brows are like the bows for pelting Kamade's flower arrows. So just like Krishna pelts the Braja Gopis with his sidelong glances, wanton eye gestures, so does Gauranga. He's mentioning that here. Hence, with a smile decorating his face like a row of pearls, Gauranga is an ocean of compassion for all the women. So let's read this, let's understand this in context with the warning that he's presenting also. So as he says that it is, as he says here, Jajapi Shakal Stab Sam Bhabe Tahane. So he's presenting the other side in these verses. Introspective bhaktas can appreciate the importance of Vrindavan Das Thakur's statements from a deeper internal perspective, however. To properly maintain one's confidential Gaur bhajan, care and selection with whom one discusses Gaur Nagar activities is essential, for such pastimes are nourished by secrecy. Vrindavan Thakur's warning is stating that one should not address Mahaprabhu as a Nagar here and there, because it's not proper. People will misunderstand. In other words, outside of her inner circle of close friends, a sati, chaste woman, will never leak out the news of her parapati or her paramour, only to disgrace her beloved and bring ruin upon herself. For example, in Vrindavan, the gopis never tell anybody that they're having affairs with Krishna. If they did, those pastimes would come to a close, because then their mother-in-law, their father-in-law, their husband, the community in general will all put an end to such pastimes. And they will only scandalize Krishna, and they will become an object of scandal. And no one will allow them to go to perform their Krishna seva anymore. So they keep these matters secret. Similarly in Nadia, the same thing is true. Hence, Sri Haridas Das Baba of Haribol Kutir often supported Vrindavan Das's version by saying, If a newly married girl happens to fall in love with some handsome boy of her village who is not her husband, whom will she tell? After carefully pondering, however, another realization presents itself. These passages focus on Sri Gauranga's Juga avatar feature and not his Rasaraj Mahabhav Swarup. In other words, we have discussed the Siddhanta that Mahaprabhu is Swayam Bhagavan. Swayam Bhagavan is Sri Krishna, the source of all avatars. And Gauranga is Krishna. And in fact, Gauranga is Krishna's highest feature. As Kaviraj Goswami addresses him as the Paratattva Simha, the highest limit of transcendence. So, within Mahaprabhu we have the Rasaraj feature and the Mahabhav feature. But in these passages where Vrindavan Das is addressing Mahaprabhu, is advising everyone not to address him as a Nagar, he's referring to Mahaprabhu in the end as Vaikuntha's Nayak. In other words, as Narayan or Vishnu. So, evidence of this comes at the end of Vrindavan Das Thakur's verses when he refers to Gauranga as Vaikuntha's Nayak or Narayan. Everything thus stated here rings true. For